So your personal growth paper part 2 will be a much more in-depth paper that I'm expecting you to complete as opposed to part 1. This will be a minimum of 3 full pages in length, and I'm also expecting to see you reference course material, readings, or lecture material in terms of what has been covered and as you're discussing these topics in your paper. Think of this paper as kind of being a reflection in a formal way about things that you have learned. So in paper 1, you talked about your general thoughts on racism, prejudice, power, and privilege. You will return to these topics, but now you have explored them through the lens of the different issues and different minority groups and topics that we covered throughout the semester. So you should have a more in-depth understanding of some of these concepts. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for your I'm looking to see how what you have learned in the class has it changed, shifted or not, or maybe it has been deepened in some way, or you've learned something new. There's kind of two different ways of writing this paper. The first way is the one that most students tend to use, and I think is probably the easiest way to go about writing this paper, is that you can pick 4 particular topics that we covered during this semester. So let's say you pick classism, let's say you pick Native Americans, ableism, and religion. So you can pick 4 topics of the modules or the issues that we cover. And then within each one, what you will do is you will talk about the ism. So if it has to do with a racial or ethnic group, you'll talk about racism. If it's something like classism, well, classism itself is this ism. So you'll talk a little bit about what it is. Then you'll talk about how the concept of prejudice relates to that. And then you'll talk about the concepts of power and privilege within that. Now, in addition to that, I am also expecting you to incorporate some personal examples. However, unlike in your first paper, where you could pull examples back all the way back from your childhood, this particular paper, I am looking for recent examples, ideally things that you have come across or explored or found out or experienced during the semester. If you're struggling with figuring some of those things out, you're welcome to go a little bit further back. But honestly, if you're struggling, then you can reflect back on your experiential projects. These are things that pertain to the different issues, and these are things you experienced during this semester. And so you can use those as your examples. You will also talk about how what you have learned will help you and connect to your future work as a service provider. Now, if you're not going into a service provider role, then just generally talk about how does this relate to your future interactions with other people, whatever field that you're going to be in. How's this going to impact? What difference is it going to make? So let's take a look at the rubric real quick again. Now, this paper is due on the last day of class, which is August 7th. So you will have until the end of the semester to submit it. So again, you will talk about the different issues. So talking about 4 key concepts. Now, I didn't talk about the second way of writing this paper. So the second way is you're gonna break it up and talk about specifically the concepts of racism, prejudice, power, and privilege. And then you will use examples that and things you've covered during the semester to back that up and substantiate it. As I've said earlier, I think the first way of writing it is a little bit easier, and students tend to prefer it that way, but you're welcome to write it the other way as well. And I've had people do that as well, and they've done a great job with it. Then make sure you use your 2 examples and you write about those and you provide recent examples. And you also talk about how this will relate to working with diverse individuals or populations. And the last things, as has been so far with all the other papers, is again grammar, structure, and did you meet the page requirement.